You know, we often think of great leaders as just being born that way. But what if leadership wasn't some magic personality trait? What if it was more like a blueprint, something you could actually architect from the ground up for your specific team? Well, in this explainer, we're going to show you exactly how. Right? This is the age-old question. Are legendary leaders just born with it, or can leadership actually be built? We're going to focus entirely on that second idea, that you don't have to be born a certain way. You can absolutely become the leader your team needs by design. I mean, we've all read those leadership books, right? They're full of abstract theories, vague ideas, the stuff on the left. It sounds good, but it just stays on the page. What we're all really after is the stuff on the right, real, practical influence that actually creates change. So the big question is, how do you get from one side to the other? Well, here's the answer. You stop trying to copy someone else's style and instead, you become the architect of your own. It's all about designing a leadership model from scratch, one that's built specifically for your team, your challenges, and your goals. Okay, so let's get specific. What we're talking about is building a leadership framework. Now, this isn't some fluffy mission statement. Look at the definition here. It's a practical model, and the most important words are tailored and specific. It means the way you lead a team of scrappy engineers in a startup should be totally different from how you lead a team of auditors in a huge corporation. It has to be custom built for your world.
And I really want to drive this point home. This isn't a passive thing you just read about. This is about rolling up your sleeves. It's a hands-on approach. You are literally building something that is designed to work. So how do you actually do it? Where do you even start? Well, architecting your leadership really comes down to these three foundational steps. First, you define your team's values. Second, you get real about your unique challenges. And third, you set your core goals. Let's break each of those down.
Okay, building block number one is your team's values. And I don't mean the words on a poster in the break room. I mean the real foundation of your culture. For instance, if one of your core values is radical collaboration, well, your leadership style just can't be top-down and dictatorial, can it? If a value is move fast and innovate, then you have to lead in a way that encourages smart risks. Your whole framework has to be built on this authentic ground. Otherwise, it's just going to collapse.
Second, you have to build for your specific challenges. Think about it. The leadership needed for a brand new startup fighting for survival is all about speed and agility. That is completely different from the leadership needed for a huge, stable company, which might be all about process and minimizing risk. Your framework has to be the right tool for the job you have right now. And that brings us to the third building block, your goals. Where are you actually trying to go? If your goal is to launch a new product in 6 months, your leadership framework needs to be about urgency and hitting milestones. But if your goal is to rebuild team morale after a really tough year, your framework is going to look totally different. It's going to prioritize empathy, recognition, and communication. Your values and challenges design the vehicle, but your goals set the destination.
Now, when you put these three blocks together, your values, your challenges, and your goals, something amazing happens. You start to make this huge shift. You're fundamentally moving away from just ideas on a page and into the real world, into taking action.
Which leads to this incredible transformation. You're moving from a state of untapped potential, that's the zero, to one of real, genuine, effective influence. You become the hero that your team needs, not because you were born with it, but because you actually did the hard work to design it. And what you end up with is not more theory. It's a clear, actionable roadmap. You know exactly where you are, you know exactly where you're going, and you know how your specific leadership style is gonna get you there. No more guesswork.
So let's just recap the big wins here. First, you take all that leadership potential you have and you turn it into actual influence. Second, you get a framework that's perfectly tailored to your team, not some one-size-fits-all solution. And finally, you get to move past all those abstract, impractical theories that just don't work in the real world.
So, think of it this way. You're not just a manager or a boss. You are the architect, creating the blueprint for your own leadership. It's a detailed, intentional plan designed for one single purpose: to build real, lasting influence with your team.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. If you were to sit down today with a blank sheet of paper and start designing your leadership, what would that blueprint look like? What would you build?